Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So if you keep getting distracted by your phone, your thoughts, or even random YouTube videos every time you try to study, this video is for you. And whether you're studying for an exam or learning something new for your side hustle, the ability to focus is getting harder and harder than ever. And those distractions are quietly costing you your time, your energy, and even your life. But what if there's a way for you to finally stay focused while studying and actually get things done so you'll avoid feeling overwhelmed or falling behind? And that's where this book comes in, Hyperfocus by Chris Bailey. And in this video, I'll be sharing with you the 5 actionable tips that I've taken away from the book that if you apply in your own life will hopefully help you improve your focus and productivity. Now, when we set out to do something like start studying for a big exam or going to the gym or finally launching that side hustle like making YouTube videos, we tend to write vague statements, right? Like study tomorrow or run or YouTube channel. And having these kinds of plans isn't necessarily bad. I mean, having goals, even if they sound vague, is still better than having no goals at all. But here's the problem. If you stop there, it's really easy to just fall into the trap of procrastination or just forgetting everything entirely. Because when something is vague, it doesn't really feel real. It's not urgent, so it's easy to just push it aside. So if you really want to start doing something and actually follow through, you have to set a specific time and place for when you're gonna do it. For example, instead of saying study tomorrow, you're gonna write on your calendar, tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 12 noon, I will study 30 pages of biochemistry and do 25 practice tests at my study table. You see how much more specific that is. And having that level of specificity, like not just about what you'll do, but when and where, it massively increases the odds that you'll actually do it. This is what's called as implementation intention, a concept from the book, The Atomic Habits. And if you want to check out my video about atomic habits and how it can help you pass your exam, I'll link it up somewhere up here. And so implementation intentions, as defined in the book by Peter Gollwitzer, to make a very detailed plan on how you want to achieve what you want to achieve. And what I'm arguing in my research is that goals need plans, ideally plans that include when, where, and which kind of action to move toward the goal. Now, back in the day, our early ancestors had to constantly scan their environment for any kind of danger. For example, tigers hiding in the bushes. They had to stay alert because otherwise, if they're too focused on, say, making a fire, then they'd get eaten, right? And that's why our brains develop what's called as a novelty bias, which is a built-in drive to always seek something new. But the problem is, in today's world, there are no more tigers, but the novelty bias, it stayed with us and it's still there. So when we try to focus on something boring, like studying, our brain keeps on searching for something novel. And the easiest source of this novelty is right inside our phone. And that's why studying while your phone is next to you, it's so hard because scrolling through social media is just more stimulating than reading your textbook. And so the next question is, how do you stop your phone from ruining your focus? The book mentioned a lot of strategies that we can do, but there are 3 things that I personally use. Now, this one really made a massive difference for me. Like, I no longer get random alerts about app updates or someone posting something on social media, stuff that I don't care about anyway. And I feel way less stressed because of this, because my phone isn't constantly pulling at my attention anymore, and that's turning off phone notifications. The next one is something that I use most of the time when I'm really focusing on something, when I was studying for big exams. And the way I set it up is so that only my mom and my siblings could reach me, but everyone else is blocked out. And this kept me in the zone without worrying I'd miss something urgent. And that is using do not disturb mode on my phone. And the last one is pretty obvious, but most of us don't do it because it doesn't matter if you put your phone face down, because if you can still see it, even in the corner of your eye, your brain is still using that attention to try and ignore it and resist the temptation to pick it up. And the moment studying gets hard, you'll feel this urge to escape from it, right? And the phone is right there, so you just grab it. But if it's out of sight, your brain is not doing that anymore, so you can put all of your attention into doing that task in front of you, which is studying. And you'll find it way easier to stay focused. And so the third strategy is get your phone out of your sight. Like for me personally, I put my phone in another room or somewhere that I have to stand up and get it. And most of the time, that amount of friction is enough for me to avoid getting distracted by my phone. Before reading this book, I was fascinated by how some people on YouTube could study for like 4 or 8 or even 10 hours straight without taking any breaks. And for me, it looked like a sort of status symbol. Like if you could study for that long, you were super focused and you have strong self-control want discipline. So I tried doing the same thing. Like I'd force myself into these long study sessions without taking any breaks at all. But here's the problem. Like I wasn't actually productive for the whole 4 hours. And halfway through, I was really struggling to stay awake. And near the end of it, like I couldn't absorb anything anymore. And it felt like it took me forever to understand what I was reading. But then I read this book and I started changing how I approached focus. I followed what it said and it massively increased my productivity and my rate of learning. And I could learn and understand way more in much less time. And the book said to work in 90-minute focus cycles and then take a 15-minute break. I'm going to read a section in the book and it says, research on the value of breaks points to 2 simple rules. Take a break at least every 90 minutes. The break should be roughly 15 minutes for each hour of work that you do. Why is 90 minutes the magic number? Our mental energy tends to oscillate in 90-minute waves. We sleep in 19-minute cycles. Moving between periods of light, deep, and REM sleep, our energy continues to follow the same rhythm after we wake. We feel rested for around 90 minutes and then tired for a short period of time, around 20 to 30 minutes. And a short break every 90 minutes or so takes advantage of these natural peaks and valleys in energy cycles. At first, I was a bit skeptical about this because I still wanted to be that person who could do 4 hours straight. But after trying what the book said, I realized that I could finish more material, understand it better, and learn much faster by doing these 90-minute cycles. And I'm not the only one saying this. Andrew Huberman, a Stanford neuroscientist, he mentioned something similar. And here's a clip of him mentioning it in one of his videos.
So my suggestion would be anytime you're going to sit down and try and focus, you're going to try and do a focused bout of physical exercise or skill learning or musical learning, or maybe you're even just having a conversation. Maybe you're a therapist or you're attending therapy or a class. How long should it be? And the ideal duration is about 90 minutes. Not exactly 90 minutes, but we can reliably say 90 minutes or less. Okay, it doesn't have to be the full 90 minutes, but trying to push yourself to be able to drop into 2 hours of focus or 3 hours of focus while possible is not really in line with what we know about the underlying biology.
But here's the next important question when doing these cycles. What do you do during your 10 to 15 minute breaks? Because how you spend that break will either help you focus or completely ruin it. And most students, including me before I read this book, use study breaks to scroll social media or watch YouTube. But there are 2 problems to that. So the first is scrolling social media is a high stimuli activity. And so when you try to go back to studying, which is a low stimuli activity, your brain resists that because it's still craving that fast, exciting content from social media. And so that switch is really hard to make. And the second problem is, even after you put your phone down and you move on to the next task, getting back to studying, your brain is still thinking about the thing that you just saw. Like maybe you just saw your friend relaxing at the beach while you're there in your room studying for your exams. And that thought sticks with you. You're still thinking about it, even when you're supposed to be studying. And there's a line in the book that says, even when our attentional space is relatively clear and focused on just one task, there are deep costs associated with switching quickly to another. Leroy coined the term attention residue to describe the fragments of the previous task that remain in our attentional space after we shift to another activity. So instead, the book recommends doing low stimulus activities during your breaks. For me personally, I don't pick up my phone unless I really have to check something urgent. Most of the time, I do low stimulus activities like make myself a coffee or wash the dishes, brush my teeth, go to the toilet, play with my daughter, or talk to my wife, because these are kinds of activities that are less stimulating. So when you return to studying, you don't have that much attention residue, and so you don't struggle with the transition from your study break to your actual studying. Now, one of the most common questions that students ask me about how to stay focused while studying is there any food, drug, or pill that can increase focus and eliminate distractions? And I've always wondered if there is something that we can eat or take to become more focused, like the guy in the movie Limitless.
Tablet a day, and what I could do with my day was limitless. I learned to play the piano in 3 days.
It turns out there isn't any, but Chris Bailey said after doing extensive research on the topic, he found that meditation is the only thing that can increase your focus and avoid distractions, and was proven in study after study. And basically, meditation teaches you to focus on your breathing, and if you notice that your thoughts are distracting, you simply acknowledge them and then you let them go, just like observing clouds pass by. And after you let that go, you then return to your breathing. And this is the same process that you use when you get distracted while studying. studying, the distractions that pop up randomly in your head while studying, you can acknowledge them and let them go. And then you can gently draw your attention back to studying. Now, the last thing that I want to discuss is something that many students have spoken to before have taken for granted. Most people, they don't really take this advice seriously because when they were in med school, they managed to pass their exams without it, right? So they think that why do they need to change it? But getting enough sleep every night is very important. And there's a line in the book that says, I personally have a granted somewhat pseudoscientific rule that I think is worth following when it comes to sleep. And that for every hour of sleep you miss, you lose 2 hours of productivity the next day. We lose more than we gain when we compromise our sleep to work longer hours. The size of our attentional space can shrink by as much as 60% as the result of a sleep deficit. Complex tasks can take more than twice as long when we are tired. We also become less self-aware and survey our attentional space less often. In most cases, we're better off working fewer hours and getting enough sleep than trying to do a full day's work while tired. Some people claim they're able to get by with less sleep than everyone else, but chances are either their work isn't as complex or they'd be capable of accomplishing even more if they were better rested. And I experienced all of these things, which is why I believe them. For all of my exams, like when I was studying for my licensure examination as a doctor and as an internist, I never slept for less than 7 hours, even during that intense study period, because I know the cost of that and I'm not willing to pay that cost. And that's why I can focus for long hours the next day. Now, earlier in the video, I talked about how setting clear and specific intentions can help you stay focused while studying, but there's something else that I started doing recently that's had an even bigger impact on how I study and achieve my goals this year. And because without it, it's easy to just fall back into procrastinating and not getting anything done. So check out this video over here where I'll show you what that is and how you can use it to finally achieve your goals this year.